I'm Eliza.
I'm Meredith.
And we're Women on Film.
And today we're going to be talking about Booksmart by Olivia Wilde. Her, feature-length debut. Director debut. So, we were late to watching it.
I know. When did it come out?
I think 2019.
Okay.
Around a little bit after Lady Bird came out, I think. A little bit after Lady Bird.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like that year there was a lot of teen movies that came out.
What was going on there?
Isn't that kind of when what's that TV show called?
Stranger Things?
What's it called?
What's it about?
Euphoria.
Oh, Euphoria! Shit.
I feel like that was the year Euphoria came out.
True.
Or
Is that kinda around when Jonah Hill's skateboard movie came out?
Maybe.
I don't remember what it's called.
Mid-90s?
Oh, mid-90s. Yeah, yeah. That may have been before. But it seems like all that media around youth culture was really booming then.
But in general, I feel like because of our generation's connectedness through social media, especially the way we all have the same jokes about memes and TikToks, and I feel like there's such a connectedness of what we find funny and what we can relate to, and I don't know.
And I think also wanting to make more progressive pieces reflecting on youth and coming of age. If you think about Superbad, it's about coming of age, but there are their problems in it. You know, it's not always the best, especially in regards to women. And then so you see more coming of age pieces that are trying to be more woke, I guess.
Yeah. Trying to be more inclusive. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think Booksmart did a good job at doing without being overly cringy. Having some older person trying to relate or connect or showcase youth culture without knowing anything about it, and it just being a bunch of stereotypes and just cringy. I don't think it did that.
I thought it was because in that podcast with Olivia Wilde that IndieWire did, she talks about how much the movie was informed by the actors who played who played their characters. So I feel even she also talks about the importance of music too at that age, because I feel a lot of the songs we like and recognize.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely seems she drew a lot from the actors that were in it, and letting them explore themselves, and I found they were more relatable than if she tried to characterize them too much. I don't know how long it's been since she's been out of high school, but it definitely would have been kind of awkward if she tried too hard to portray how she thinks it is.
Yeah,
and letting the
definitely.
characters try.
Yeah.
And guide the story. Yeah. And the music aspect. I feel she definitely let a lot of the music also guide the story, and is almost as prevalent as the main characters, and being essential to the story.
Yeah.
Which was cool. And in the podcast she talks about how important it was for her to have certain songs in it And, like, she spent a lot of time, like, curating this music for this movie.
Mhm.
And it shows.
Yeah. Because I think, in general, like, in high school, a lot of people use music as, like, a way to, like, I don't know, like, cope. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
It's, like, really personal.
Yeah.
So when you're still trying to figure out how to present yourself outwardly, like, music's personal and, like, you're reflecting and, like, trying to figure out what's you.
True. Like, I feel like making your own stories.
Yeah.
I think people use, like, music as a way to, like, guide, like, the stories that they're trying to make, which she does for the filmmaking, but also I think that's just what a lot of people do when they're, like, coming of age, too.
That's true. And I feel like music is also, like, a good way at, like, dating the pieces of media you create. Like, if you look at, like, Dazed and Confused, they picked a specific soundtrack to, like, date that and kind of, like, showcase what kind of, like, time period they're, like, talking about. And I think she does a good job at, like, kind of showcasing this, like, new age music and, like, really dating it to also be more, like, millennial.
Mhm.
And it wasn't cringy still. I don't think it was cringy. She did a good job.
Yeah, I love that scene where they play that, oh my god, what is his name?
Oh, Death Grip?
Yeah, they play that Death Grip.
That, like, shocked me.
I know, I was, like, so shook. I was like, oh my god, Death Grip.
That's when I was like, oh, she made me kind of cool.
I know, I feel bad for, like, not knowing much about her besides, like, her, like, acting.
Yeah, being in Her.
Yeah, she was in Her. I thought it was cool that she mentioned, like, her relationship with Spike Jonze in the podcast. Like, I just feel like, I don't know, I'm liking, like, seeing, like, actors creating, like, movies.
And I think that's what made this movie as good as it was. With her experience in being an actor, it made it more refreshing and fun, and not as, like, serious. Like, I don't know, it was just really refreshing. And I'm sure, like, being on set was, like, refreshing and fun, because she seems like a fun person who, like, just wanted to make a movie. And I don't know, I like that. I like her passion. In the podcast, she talks about how, like, she just, like, was the happiest she's ever felt, like, making a movie and being on set in a different way, not acting. And I think that's what it takes to make a good movie, and I think she, like, is an example of that.
Definitely, yeah.
But, like, also her experience with being an actor really, like, I think gave her, like, a really good insight on, like, what a good actor for this movie would be. And I think that's why all the characters, she did a good job at casting, because she knew, like, what kind of, like, you know, things they would offer to the film that only they could offer, opposed to, like, a different actor.
Yeah, she was saying how she chose the actors based on, like, just their personality and, like, who would play the best role. Whereas, like, she didn't necessarily approach it, like, looking for specific people. Like, those people found her in a way, it seemed.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I really like that. Like, the casting, like she said, she didn't want to, like, intentionally, like, use it as, like, a diversity checkbox list.
Yeah.
Which I feel like a lot of, like, teen movies do. Because they want to come off as progressive and, like...
Yeah. And it just
know,
comes off
diverse.
abrasive.
Yeah, and it just kind of comes off of, like, oh, look at us, look how progressive we are.
Yeah, this is awesome. This is really woke of us. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha.
It's such a tricky balance. Because I think it is important to tell, like, diverse stories from, like, different perspectives without making it, like, you're, like, trying to, like, capitalize off of these people.
I think what was really interesting when listening to that podcast is that she's talking about how I think it was Fast Times at Richmond, was it?
I don't know.
Fast Times. That movie, it's like a high school movie, and she talks about how she got inspiration from that, and like movies like that, where there's like 13 characters, or like a lot of characters that we get to know pretty well. And she said she kind of like threw it back to that time, and like giving every like character their own story. Maybe like also giving them their like stereotype, but then also giving them a deeper insight into who they were. And I think maybe that's a good approach at like not trying to like really force diversity by just like putting someone in there for their image.
Yeah.
But giving them more of a special place in the movie. Like they belong there, not that they're like being forced to be there because they want to seem woke.
Like like you can see like the inspiration from like the Breakfast Club and stuff like that.
That's true.
Where they kind of like have these group of people who wouldn't seemingly get along, but then end up finding like connections between them all.
Yeah. I definitely went into it thinking it was gonna be more like Superbad.
Yeah. I was going into it like thinking that too.
And I think there's just more of an emotional touch to it. And maybe that's because it was a woman who directed it, maybe because it was Olivia Wilde that directed it, but there was just something really like emotional charging the story, opposed to like other like night before graduation teen movies where they're just like trying to party. It's like there's so much more into it, and a special connection with the two friends, but also like with their classmates.
Yeah.
I think made this more like more refreshing than like Superbad or other stuff, other movies like it.
And I feel like she like tried to be a little more experimental too by doing like the scene with the dolls. Like I was not expecting that. And I thought that was like really like an interesting decision.
Those what? Yeah.
Like just stuff like that. Like I feel like she tried to like she tried to make something unique and like outside of like the typical like coming of age like genre.
Yeah.
Like things that you do. Like I feel like she didn't keep it solely comedy or like solely drama, you know?
That's what was good about it. I feel like she wanted it to be like very aggressive in its pacing, but also just like really heartfelt. I think that's a really cool dynamic, which made this movie work pretty well. I also liked in her podcast how she talked about like not wanting to like patronize the audience and kind of like discredit like their knowledge on like movies and like what's going on. So I think that's probably one of the worst things in a movie is when they're like really like trying to dumb it down for the audience. Like, wow, I can't believe this just happened because of this. And it's like, yeah, we could like infer that by watching. You didn't have to like spell it out for us. And she talks about how she wanted to give the audience more credit and not having to slow it down in areas to like explain, but just to keep it going, keep that momentum.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I respected. Because it was a really like fast pace. They never stayed in one place for too long. It kept moving. So they were able to like include a lot in this like hour 45 movie.
Definitely.
Which was great. And how she said she was inspired by like Big Lebowski, which like at first I was like, wait, what? But I like saw it more when I thought about it. How like I don't know, I didn't like laugh out loud too much at this movie, but it was funny, and like kind of how like the Big Lebowski, I wasn't like, you know, dying laughing, but it is a funny movie. It's a great movie, so I saw those like parallels of just like having a lot going on in a movie, like trying to like have like this like action-based story that's driving it with like elements of like emotional attachment and like comedy all like weaving together. It wasn't like too much of one thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it'd be more like Superbad. But I realized there was like way much more things it was more similar to. But also being like a unique piece that like stands alone from any other movie.
Yeah.
And I think she's coming out with a new movie with Harry Styles in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't look too much into it, but I think that's crazy.
That's wild.
I think. And I think she's gonna act in it as well. So she's like trying to do it all. So I think I'd be excited to see that and look forward for more work from her. Because she seems to have a good idea, but also is really humble and like comfortable asking people who may have more knowledge on the stuff that she's interested in, being like, hey, how do I do this? I need advice, I need tips. And I think that's what makes her great, is that she's really humble in wanting to learn, but also having a great vision. And she's able to like get the advice she needs to like drive her vision out.
Yeah. And I feel like in general we just need just more directors, like more like different kinds of directors in general, and it seemed like she has that vision for like the future of like Hollywood.
Yeah.
Like I think she realizes that, I don't know, that we just need more new stories and like new approaches from people who didn't necessarily like become directors from the beginning, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like there's such like a hierarchy in film.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's so hard to like be a director, but I like that people like her and like people like Michaela Cole are like going behind the scenes and in front of the camera too, like making things and like telling their stories, you know?
It's refreshing.
It feels more like authentic too.
Yeah. Because I think as an actor you're constantly playing other people's stories and other characters, and like when you're like disconnected from the like story you're a part of and telling, I bet it feels really good to like be an actor and then taking on that directing role and being able to tell a story the way you want to tell it and like personalizing that. And I think this works really well for like Olivia, because I knew nothing about her, but now I feel like I have a better understanding of her. I'm like, okay, she's pretty cool, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, okay, she has good taste in music. She knows her movies. Like, she has a great knowledge on movies. And I think that kind of shows that to be a good director, you don't have to go to film school. You don't have to, like, follow the traditions of, like, movies. That you can, like, test the boundaries. And, like, just have, like, a passion for movies. And you could tell a good story. Like her.
Yeah. I really like the way she emphasizes, like, the importance of, like, collaboration in film and, like, seeing the big picture. I thought that was really insightful. Like, I feel like, I don't know, it just makes me, like, want to work in movies, because I feel like I love, like, the idea of collaboration and, like, creating, like, a vision with people, you know?
Yeah. It was kind of like going back to her being like, yeah, I don't have all the answers. That's why I'm constantly asking people who may have the answers for me. But she's not afraid to, like, collaborate and, like, get insights from other people to, like, create things. And I think that maybe is, like, another thing that she's kind of, like, pushing forward into, like, the newer age of directing and acting, is that we shouldn't be afraid to, like, collaborate and connect over the stories we're telling. It shouldn't just be, like, one person in charge of how everything should be. Because when everybody comes together, it, like, creates this, like, amazing thing.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like in the past there's been, like, this hierarchy of like the director being like the executive order of like what gets put on and what doesn't.
Yeah, and I kind of don't like the idea of just like not giving anybody agency, especially like actors. They're like playing a role and you give them no agency. You're telling them exactly how to be all the time. That just seems very like, I don't know, definitely like enforcing like a hierarchy when it should be collaborative. They're all contributing to a story being told. And without them, they, like the director couldn't tell the story. Like they all kind of need each other and should embrace that relationship, which is great. And I feel like Olivia Wilde, like being honest about being afraid to direct because she thought she didn't have all the answers, and then the answer being that like collaboration is good. Like there's gonna be people you meet that have answers for you that could like create good media, good stuff. Overall, Booksmart is a really fun and refreshing movie that I feel like will guide a new generation of directors and like new visions for movies and how they can be told. And that's exciting.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it belongs in this new era of like filmmaking for
Yeah.
sure. And I don't know, it's really exciting to like see more real stories being created and like different approaches and non-traditional ways of making film.
Yeah, because I felt like really connected to some parts of the story, other parts not, and I think that's what's great is like a lot of people can connect to the story in different aspects, and it was a really relatable piece of media, and I definitely like to see more things like this.
Yeah, me too.
It's exciting. But definitely a good, refreshing, heartfelt story. Yeah. Well,
okay.
thanks for watching. I guess let us know what your thoughts on Booksmart were, and maybe some other stories you think kind of have the same approach as Olivia Wilde in this movie. Let us know. Bye.